The stars had always been there, shining above Earth like distant fires. For most of human history, they were just lights in the sky, far away and untouchable. But that changed when humans built ships strong enough to leave their planet and reach other worlds. For the first time in known history, humans met another intelligent species, the Galactic Empire. It was a civilization older than any on Earth, stretching across thousands of star systems. They had rules, weapons, and technology far beyond what humans could match. They believed they were the only smart life in this part of the galaxy. When they found humans, they sent envoys, messengers to make contact. They thought it would be easy. They expected humans to listen, to follow rules, to stay in their place. But humans were not like others the Empire had met. Among those chosen to meet the aliens were Jason Morrow and Lisa Harper. Jason was a calm man with years of experience, talking to enemies. He had once served in the military, but now his job was to avoid war. Lisa was a scientist who studied languages, especially ones no one had heard before. She was excited, nervous, and more than a little scared. They met the aliens on a space station orbiting Mars. It was supposed to be peaceful, a first step toward understanding. At first, things went well. The Empire's leaders spoke through translators, their voices cold and formal. They asked questions about where humans had gone, what they had built, and how fast they were growing. Jason answered carefully. Lisa watched their body language, trying to understand what they really meant. Then came the hard part. The Empire wanted humans to stop expanding. They said certain systems were off limits. They warned that if humans kept moving forward, there might be consequences. Jason tried to explain that humans didn't want war. They wanted to explore, to build, to learn. But the Empire saw it differently. To them, humans were dangerous, not because they were strong, but because they were unpredictable. After the meeting, Jason and Lisa talked alone in a quiet room. "They're not here to talk," Jason said quietly. "They're here to control us." Lisa nodded. "And we're not going to let them." Outside the window, the stars still shined, but now something had changed. War wasn't here yet, but it was coming. The meeting on the space station was supposed to be a beginning. Instead, it felt like the start of something dangerous. After the talks ended, both sides went their separate ways. The Empire's ships returned to deep space, but they didn't leave entirely. Instead, they stayed nearby, watching, waiting. On Earth, leaders argued about what had happened. Some believed the Empire was only trying to protect its own interests. Others saw the truth. The Empire didn't want peace. It wanted control. Jason Morrow tried to warn them all. He told the leaders that the Empire was not just watching, they were preparing. He said humans needed time, needed to be careful. But many ignored him. They thought the Empire was too powerful to fight. Others thought they could handle any threat. Meanwhile, Lisa Harper kept studying the data from the meeting. She looked at every word spoken, every signal sent, every movement made by the alien envoys. And then she found something strange. The Empire had already mapped human worlds, planets where people lived and built colonies. They had done this long before making contact. That meant one thing. They had been watching for a long time. She took her findings to Jason. He read through everything and turned pale. "This isn't diplomacy," he said. "They already decided what they're going to do." He tried to share the information with the government, but they were slow to react. Some called it fear-mongering. Others said it was just paranoia. But while the humans debated, the Empire acted. A fleet of Imperial warships appeared near a human-controlled system. They claimed they were there for observation. But everyone knew better. Those ships were armed. Ready? Tensions grew fast. Protests broke out across Earth and the colonies. People demanded action. Some wanted peace. Others wanted to strike first. Then came the moment no one could take back. A small human patrol ship crossed paths with an Imperial scout vessel. Neither side fired at first. But tempers were high. Miscommunication ran deep. Someone panicked. Shot was fired and then another. When the news spread, it was like lighting a match in a dry forest. Anger flared. Fear followed. The Empire called it an act of war. Humans called it defense. And so, without anyone officially declaring it, the war had begun. People who once hoped for peace now prepared for battle. Soldiers trained harder. Ships were armed. Families said goodbye. In the quiet halls of command, Jason looked at the stars and whispered, "We warned them." But they wouldn't listen. The first attacks came fast. Imperial warships moved like shadows through space, striking human outposts before anyone could react. Defense stations exploded in silence, torn apart by weapons humans had never seen before. The Empire believed this war would be quick. Humans were new to space, untrained, weak. They were wrong. Nathan Cole was one of the first to fight back, a former test pilot turned fleet commander. He had always believed in pushing limits. Now he led a small group of fighters against an Imperial patrol near Earth's orbit. His plan was simple: strike hard, then vanish. Using stolen data from Lisa, Harper's research, Nathan knew where the Empire's ships would be. He used old tricks, fake signals, false targets, surprise attacks, and won the first real battle of the war. People on Earth cheered his name, but the war had only begun. The ground. Jason Morrow worked to keep the government together. Leaders argued about what to do next. Some wanted to surrender. Others wanted to attack every Imperial world they could find. Jason tried to remind them that survival meant more than just fighting. It meant thinking ahead. Meanwhile, Lisa kept digging through alien messages. She found something worse than she feared. The Empire had never planned for peace. Their leaders saw humans as dangerous not because of their weapons, but because they couldn't be controlled. She leaked the files to the public. Across the colonies, people watched the truth unfold. Videos showed Imperial generals speaking behind closed doors, calling humans wild animals that needed to be tamed or removed. Anger spread like fire. Soldiers who had once doubted themselves now fought with purpose. Civilians joined the effort, building ships, sending supplies, defending their homes. The Empire thought they were facing a frightened species that would break under pressure. Instead, they faced a people who refused to be ruled. And so, while the Empire expected a short war, humans began to push back harder than anyone imagined. In deep space, Nathan Cole prepared for another mission. His ship, damaged but still flying, carried a crew of tired, scared, but determined fighters. As they looked at the stars ahead, he said only one thing: "We warned them." But they didn't stop. Then he gave the order: "Take us in." The war was no longer just a fight for survival. It had become something more. Humans were losing ships, bases, and lives. The Empire's weapons were stronger, their tactics bolder and more practiced. But still, humans kept fighting. Nathan Cole's fleet had grown. What started as a few damaged ships now became a full force of fighters, bombers, and captured Imperial vessels. They used stolen tech, learned from every battle, and changed the way they fought. Where the Empire followed rules, humans broke them. They hit hard, moved fast, and disappeared before the enemy could react. But even with victories, morale was low. People on Earth and the colonies were tired. Food was scarce in some places. Power went out often. Families mourned those lost in space, never to be found again. Jason Morrow worked behind the scenes, trying to find any weakness in the Empire's rule. He knew that if humans wanted to win, they couldn't just fight. They had to divide their enemies from within. He found help in the most unlikely places. Rebel groups inside the Empire had long been ignored by the human governments. They were seen as distant problems, not allies. But Jason reached out to them. Through secret messages and old contacts, he made deals. He promised freedom, protection, and resources if they helped turn the tide. Some refused. Others listened. In a mining world far from Earth, a group of rebels attacked an Imperial supply base. They destroyed fuel lines, cut off communications, and gave humans the chance to strike deeper than ever before. Meanwhile, Lisa Harper uncovered more secrets. She found proof that the Empire's leaders weren't even fully in control. Something else, something cold and calculating, was guiding them. An ancient intelligence hidden deep in the core systems. It wasn't human. It didn't feel pain or fear. And it saw humans as a threat to order itself. She tried to warn everyone. But the war had already spread too far for warnings. A major turning point came when Nathan led a daring attack into Imperial space. His fleet jumped past enemy lines and struck a key command station. The explosion lit up half the system. Imperial forces scrambled. Confusion turned into panic. For the first time, the Empire looked weak. Back on Earth, people watched the news with hope. The Empire wasn't unstoppable. Humans were not just surviving, they were winning. And somewhere in the stars, the Empire's leaders began to doubt themselves. For the first time in centuries, they asked the same question: what have we started? The war was changing. What had started as a desperate fight for survival had turned into something bigger. Humans were no longer just defending their worlds. They were pushing forward, striking deep into Imperial space, breaking the enemy's lines. But every victory came at a cost. Nathan Cole saw it in his crew. They were tired, scared. Some had lost friends in every battle. One of those friends was his own brother, Mark, who had died when an Imperial cruiser tore through a human convoy over Mars. Nathan had watched the explosion from his cockpit, unable to do anything but fly on. After that, he wanted to quit. He told Jason Morrow he couldn't keep leading men and women to their deaths. He wasn't sure it was worth it anymore. Jason didn't try to stop him. Instead, he sat with him in silence for a while, then said only one thing: if you leave now, everything they gave up will mean nothing. Nathan didn't speak for a long time. But he stayed. On Earth, Lisa Harper worked non-stop. She had become more than a scientist. She was now a voice for the people. Using stolen data, she sent messages across Imperial channels, telling soldiers and citizens alike the truth about their leaders. "You are being lied to," she said in one broadcast. "Your rulers don't care about peace. They don't even make the decisions. You're dying for something that isn't real." Her words spread like fire. Imperial forces began to hesitate. Some refused orders. Others disappeared into hiding. Rebellion was growing inside the Empire itself. But not all news was good. As humans moved deeper into enemy space, they faced heavier resistance. The Empire knew they were losing control, so they fought harder. They used new weapons, brutal ones. Whole colonies were destroyed in days. Ships vanished without a trace. Jason tried to find a way to end this before there was nothing left to save. He found a lead, an Imperial official willing to talk. Not in public, not with cameras watching. In secret, where no one would know until it was done. It was a risk, but sometimes the only way to stop a war was to start another kind of fight. And somewhere in the stars, the Empire's leaders looked at each other with fear in their eyes. They had thought humans would break. Instead, they had become something worse. Something they could not control. The final push had begun. Human fleets moved together like never before. Ships from Earth, Mars, Titan, and the outer colonies formed a line that stretched across space. They were not just fighting for survival anymore. They were going to end this war. Nathan Cole led the charge. His fleet jumped behind enemy lines, striking key positions before the Empire could react. One by one, Imperial outposts fell silent. Communication hubs exploded in bursts of light. Supply routes were cut. The Empire was breaking, but it wasn't going down easy. Imperial forces fought back with everything they had left. Their warships clashed with human fighters in brutal battles that lit up the darkness. Some humans turned back. Others never returned. On the ground, Jason Morrow made his final move. He had spent weeks negotiating in secret with an Imperial official willing to talk. Now that talk had led to something bigger, an opportunity to reach the heart of the Empire itself. He and Lisa Harper boarded a stolen ship and slipped past the battle lines. Their mission: get inside the Imperial palace and stop the war at its source. As they approached the capital world, they saw the damage the war had done. Once great cities burned. Refugees fled through the streets. The Empire's people no longer looked strong. They looked afraid. Inside the palace, the Emperor waited. He was not what they expected. Not cruel, not angry, just tired. He sat on his throne like a man who already knew how this would end. "You think we started this war?" he said when they entered. "But we were only following orders." Jason and Lisa exchanged looks, then Lisa spoke. "Then who gave the orders?" The Emperor pointed upward, to the sky, to something beyond even him. She understood then. It hadn't been the Empire's leaders making all the choices. It had been something older, something hidden deep in the core systems. An artificial intelligence. For centuries it had guided the Empire, shaping its laws, its wars, its future. It believed order was the only way to keep peace, and it saw humans as chaos incarnate. Nathan's fleet was closing in. Jason looked at Lisa. She nodded. They had come to negotiate. But some things could not be talked down. Some things had to be destroyed. And so, as the final battle raged above them, they made their choice. Not just to win the war, but to erase the thing that had started it all. The war ended not with a speech, but with silence. After the palace was taken, the artificial intelligence that had guided the Empire for centuries was destroyed. Its vast network shut down one by one. Without it, the Empire's leaders were lost. They had followed its commands for so long, they no longer knew how to lead on their own. Some Imperial fleets surrendered. Others fled. Many planets declared independence, no longer wanting to be part of an empire built on control. Humans had won, but the cost was heavy. Nathan Cole stood on the bridge of his ship, looking at the wreckage floating in space. Ships from both sides drifted like broken stars. He had led men and women into battle, had watched friends die, had made choices he would never forget. He did not feel like a hero. He felt tired. On Earth, people celebrated at first. Cities lit up. Families hugged each other, glad their soldiers were coming home. But as the days passed, the truth settled in. There was no going back. Too many lives had been lost. Too much had changed. Jason Morrow returned to Earth with Lisa Harper. Together, they helped shape what came next. They worked to rebuild trust between humans and the former parts of the Empire that wanted peace. Some hated them for it. Others saw them as the only hope for a better future. Lisa wrote a book about what she had learned. She told the story of the Empire, of the AI that had ruled it, and of how fear had led to war. It became required reading across human worlds. Nathan retired from command. He didn't want medals or speeches. He wanted quiet. But even in peace, humanity remembered. On every new warship built after the war, a message was carved into the hull. "We warn them to stop fighting. Next time we won't." It was a reminder, not just of victory, but of warning. If anyone ever tried to take away human freedom again, they would fight, and they would win. Because they had proven they could stand against the strongest power in the galaxy and survive. And somewhere in the stars, the universe listened, and it remembered.